as of yesterday, in Standard here, Alrund's Epiphany, banned. Divide by Zero, banned. Faceless Haven, banned. Wow. Okay. One of those, Alrund's Epiphany. So I feel like this was a very late ban for this card. It has been the mainstay of a deck archetype that's pretty prominent, especially among best of threes or best of ones maybe, because I don't know, it's hard-ish to counter against, because a lot of times whoever's playing Alrund's Epiphany, that's basically their win con, and they've got that and the copy spell with flashback, and so they're trying to just do those and get essentially infinite turns, infinite birds until they just win. It had gotten a nerf when they adjusted it for alchemy to where the foretell cost is the same as the regular cost, and you only got the birds if you cast it from foretell. So basically, you only got the birds if you paid the extra 2. The thing is, with Epiphany, it's hard to really tamp it down because of foretell. You can put it into exile and cast it later so that it's uninteractable in what we have right now. So I understand the ban. I totally get it. 100% cool with it. I was also not a fan of playing those boring games against decks that would just copy and copy and copy and copy and cast Alrund's Epiphany. What I think is, it's a bit late for it. It feels like they were at a point now where they had made the decision to not ban it, and then a week or two before Kamigawa comes out, they're like, no, get it out of here. And their reasonings are sound, because it was making a very stale... the reasoning for banning all of these is that it's making for a stale standard climate, which I get, but it just feels late for the Alrund's Epiphany. It feels like an afterthought. Or it's either an afterthought or, like I said, since Kamigawa's coming out in a couple weeks, it feels like a preemptive thing. Now, there still is the other extra turn spell, the Cleave one, that's in Standard right now from Crimson Vow. And that one's a little different. You need 2 red and 1 to get an extra turn, and then you lose the game after that turn. Or you need, like, 4, 2 blue and a red to just get an extra turn. And so that's still possible to be abused because it's still an extra turn spell, but it doesn't go into exile with foretell like Alrund's Epiphany does, and it doesn't give you birds, which are an automatic win con within the card itself. So we'll see how that goes. That could probably just be test of talented out for most sideboards, I guess, but we'll see about that later. I'm okay with the Alrund's Epiphany ban. I get it, 100% on board. I just feel like they're covering their asses more than actually being like, okay, get this out of here, it's a bad idea. Divide by Zero getting a ban as well. So this is them basically saying, like, yeah, blue is very strong. If we take out Alrund's Epiphany, it's basically still just going to be Lear and Divide by Zero. This Divide by Zero not only acts as a return spell and essentially draw a card with the learn effect, but it also can be a counter spell. In some cases, it can be essentially a time walk or an extra turn spell, because if you just return somebody's big spell that they're spending a lot of mana on, then it's just, they wasted that turn essentially, and you only spent 3 mana. Divide by Zero, I think, is a very good card, and I understand the interaction between it and Lear can be problematic, where you just have a bunch in your yard already, you get Lear out, you can cast them all again and just lock down the opponent. I feel like Divide by Zero, I'm on the fence. I could go either way on whether or not it should or shouldn't have been banned. I'm okay with it being banned. I'm fine with that. I understand and acknowledge how oppressive it can be, because I've been on the receiving end of that plenty of times. I'm very interested to see what this Divide by Zero ban means for the rest of Standard. And now we go on to Faceless Haven, which is a card, another one that had a nerf for Alchemy, where they just made it a 3/3 with Vigilance instead of a 4/3, which is cool. It's a quality nerf. I don't play Alchemy. I'm Standard. I still play Standard. Faceless Haven is a staple in any monocolored aggro decks. And it's how those decks stay around after a board wipe and still stay relevant in the game and aggressive in the game without a board wipe. It can also replace a turn 4 play by just making this 4/3 that can swing in. It's a very, very efficient creature land, especially since it has vigilance innately. Celestial Colonnade from long time ago is a white-blue creature land that can do the same thing. Also has vigilance. Costs a little extra to make it a creature, I think, but still, it was a staple in control decks in like original Zendikar Standard and in Modern through there. And this is reminiscent of it, even if it does cost just snow to be able to do that. I'm on the same boat as Divide by Zero. I could go either way with the ban. It's kind of ironic because Divide by Zero can't target Faceless Haven because it says spell or permanent with mana value 1 or greater. So this can't touch tokens, this can't touch lands. I think it's funny. Neither here nor there, but I'm okay with the Faceless Haven ban as well. I'm interested to see how this is going to mix up Standard, because there's going to be a lot of decks that were on the fringes that are going to get closer to meta. I think mono white aggro and mono green aggro are still going to be around. I feel like there's going to need to be more protection there, though. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how that shakes up. And I'm kind of especially interested in seeing what cards are going to replace the loss of Divide by Zero. We might see some Into the Royal, which is a pet card of mine, kind of. Mostly for the fact that in Historic, you can have essentially 8 copies of it. And I kind of made a deck around that just for laughs, but whatever. And I think we're going to see a higher prevalence of that one manland from Zendikar Rising, where you could put 4 mana into it and put counters on it and make it into a creature, and you just build the counters on it more and more the more times you used it. I think we're going to see that come back in place of Faceless Haven, but we'll see. I know all the monocolored decks are going to be running those Forgotten Realms creature lands, absolutely. There's going to be plenty of decks that this doesn't really affect at all. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see where Standard goes from here.